A lot of people are asking me right now if now is a good time to buy a home. They're concerned because home prices are up, interest rates are up, and they feel like their affordability is way down, which it is. But if you look at the historical facts, which we're going to do today, it is better off to buy sooner rather than later. First of all, home prices in Massachusetts since 1975. Here's a graph of that. And you can see that in the last 50 years, home prices have very consistently been increasing. With the exception of the housing crisis in 05 to 2012, during that time period, home prices did go down. But if you're trying to time the market, you would have had to pick that one time in the last 50 years where you saw a slight dip in prices to buy a home. And even then, you look at the dip and how low it went compared to the prior history, it's tough to time it perfectly and to make out financially in the long run. Again, you're better off just buying sooner rather than later. So that's number one. Number two, if you look at mortgage rates over the last 50 years, you'll see that other than a big spike in the 70s and 80s, early 80s, right now we're experiencing one of the biggest spikes we've seen other than that time period. In general, rates have been pretty low during that entire time. But when they did spike in the 70s and 80s, mortgage rates were very high. They went from 8% to 18%. So 8 to 18. Yet home prices still went up about 65% during that time period, even though rates more than doubled. So a lot of people are thinking rates are going up. I'm going to wait to buy because home prices have got to come down. Really, the only other time we have to compare this to in the last 50 years saw home prices increasing because, again, at that time, they also had high inflation, just like we have now. So in terms of real numbers, if we look at the recent time period we've had, home prices were skyrocketing during COVID because interest rates were at the lowest levels we've seen, below 3% on a 30-year fixed mortgage. Going into the start of 2022, rates were still like right around 3%, and a lot of people were not buying because home prices had just shot up 17% over the last year. Mortgage rates were low, but they felt home prices were too high. So if someone bought a home then, say they got a mortgage for $600,000 at 3%, they'd be paying about $2,529 for their principal and interest. That's if they bought at the very start of 2022. The people that didn't buy, that said, I'm going to wait because home prices are so high, well, guess what? Even though mortgage rates have gone from 3% at the start of 2022 to 7.5% now, home prices have also gone up 11% during that time. So if you had waited and you were buying a home now, that $600,000 mortgage, now you're going to be getting a mortgage for $681,000 because of the 11% increase. And at 7.5%, your monthly mortgage payment, instead of being $2,529, now it's all the way up to $4,762 because you waited a year and a half. So now fast forward to now, people are looking back saying, well, I should have bought in 2022. I could have saved $800,000 on my mortgage over the life of the loan if I just bought then. That's in a year and a half. That's what it's cost you to wait over this last year and a half. Now, yes, you are getting hit by both home prices going up and also interest rates being high. So it is a double whammy there. But so now you're looking going forward, what should I do? Well, you can buy now and have this $4,700 monthly payment on principal and interest, or you could wait. So let's talk about what happens if you wait. Most likely, home prices are going to continue to go up, as we know from looking at the last 50 years. Probably going to go up conservatively, we'll say 5% over the next 2 years. So if you wait 2 more years, now that $681,000 mortgage, you're going to need it to be about $750,000 to buy that same home. Say rates do go down. Say they go down to 6%. Your 6% rate on the $750,000 loan is going to put you at $4,502 a month for your principal and interest. Now you might say, yeah, that's better than paying $4,700 a month, which I have to pay now if I were to buy a home. But what you don't understand is that people that are buying now with this $4,700 payment, they can refinance their mortgage when the rates go down to 6%. And if they do that, they end up with a $4,046 a month principal and interest payment because they have that lower home price that they bought at and a lower amount that they owe. So even though they're paying more now, when the rates go down, they can refinance and they end up with a lower payment than the people that wait because they're getting the higher loan amount and they're paying $4,500 a month. If you bought now, you're getting the lower amount, and when you refinance, you're only paying $4,046 a month, which saves them about $164,000 in interest over the life of their loan, just because they bought earlier at the better price and still ended up with a better rate. So the point is, you are better off to buy sooner rather than later. Even with rates going up, home prices have been continuing to go up. We've seen it now over the last couple of years, and we saw it back in the 70s and 80s again when prices were skyrocketing, even as rates skyrocketed. So the moral here is, don't try to time the market. You might be one time in 50 years. Unless you think you have that nailed down, I would say buy sooner rather than later. You can't go back in time and buy at a lower price, but you can go and update your rate and refinance into the lower rate when rates go down.